All right, hello and welcome to Lancast. Danny and Josh here, and we have a very special guest today, Ken Krawchuk. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Danny. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and so I know you not just from Libertarian circles, but Toastmasters, and we saw each other at a Toastmasters convention a couple weeks ago. I've talked about it on this show before, and you're actually the second Toastmaster I've had on Lancast. The other one was Jim Boswell a couple of December ago. He did a Bill of Rights Day with me. That was a lot of fun because he knows his Constitution, so he went through. Yeah,
that is true. He does a speech called the Constitution Rap. I don't know.
Oh yes, I've heard the Constitution Rap. That's great.
It's a rap song about the Constitution.
Yes,
he did. I had him do it on my radio show. Oh, I guess it was about a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, he told me about that. Good stuff. But anyway, yeah. So Ken, you're tell us what's new. You're going to be running for a certain office next year, right?
That's true. I'm gearing up to run for governor of Pennsylvania once again. Right. I've run in the past. I ran in 1998 against Tom Ridge, in 2002 against Ed Rendell, and again in 2018 against Big Bad Governor Wolf. And each time my vote total keeps going up. I've been setting records every time for the Libertarian Party. So I figure I'm on a roll. I'm going to just keep right on rolling.
All right. Yeah. And the listeners of our show probably know that Josh and I are former Libertarians. That we operate within the Republican Party now, but that's okay. I mean, we're a big tent. And what was my point with this? Yeah, I mean, I think we all value the same thing. That's right. The point was my first question. So, what kind of Libertarian do you consider yourself? Because a lot of people don't understand what the Libertarian Party is, which is also a big tent, and there's different kinds it can be.
Well, I'm not sure about different kinds because to my mind, there's only one. Because we're the party of principle. Every law we support or oppose comes back to one central idea. The idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have an inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only you respect the rights and property of others. That's it. That's what it means to be a libertarian. Your life, your way, as long as you respect others. It's the golden rule on a political level.
Yeah, I think most people have some libertarian tendencies, whether they realize it or not. So,
Danny, I go to an event, and after I say that, I'll ask the audience, how many of you believe you can live your life your own way as long as you respect others? Every hand in the room goes up. We're all libertarian.
It's a good point. Yeah. I was just thinking in literal terms, because one time I saw, maybe it was an article or a post, and it was like, what kind of libertarian are you? And it lists the different, kind of labels. There's like ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist, and minarch libertarian. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
There's Prags as well.
Yeah. There were several others. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you don't apply any kind of those labels, do you?
They're tactical differences, not strategic differences. Sure. We all believe the same thing. Your life, your way, as long as you respect others. Different people have different ways of approaching that. Probably the only one I think is crazy. I've heard of something called a socialist libertarian or something like that.
Are they the ones? Yeah. Are the socialist libertarians the ones that are a little bit kooky when it comes to like pedophilia? Like, whoa. 18 is an arbitrary number. Are those the socialist libertarians?
Anyway, yeah, I don't pay them any mind. They were big in the party, I guess, around 5 or 6 years ago. And
they were.
Oh, so that was a real thing.
It was concerning, yeah. They're like, 18 is a very arbitrary number if you look at history. And I'm just like, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
18 is arbitrary for a lot of things. For example, I went to University of Pennsylvania for a talk on lowering the drinking age. And when I got there, the students, I love students. When they run things, it's not always great. But they say, so are you here to lower the drinking age? I said, no, I'm not here. And the student's like, but, no, I'm here to eliminate the drinking age. Okay. Have a seat right here.
That's a good segue into the whole marijuana bill that the Republicans wouldn't pass here in the state. I was a little disappointed in my old representative, because the reason why he said he voted against the bill was because it wouldn't benefit state farmers, and that it was a class 1 drug federally. But he's also the same guy who's pro Second Amendment and has said that he would ignore the federal. If the federal government tried to take away your guns, the states have the right to keep their guns. You know,
Yes.
so it's just I felt like it was a cop out, and also like I just don't like the idea of legalizing marijuana. We need to decriminalize it. Treat it just like a candy bar. Treat it like a candy bar. Treat it like a bottle of soda. You know, it's when you legalize something, you just make it to where you can pay a fee or a fine or a tax, so you can do something that is legal to do, but still isn't really decriminalized.
I would say just eliminate all those laws. When I read the bill to legalize cannabis, I just shook my head about it. They wanted to put it into the state store system. If they did that, we would never see the light of day. Look how hard it is to shut down alcohol in the state stores right now. If you put cannabis in there, it'd be that same little tight group taking care of it. As governor, I would have vetoed that because it's a giant step backward. All we need to do is just any laws on cannabis, just take them off the books. The only one I would keep is about giving it to minors. That's it. After that, if you want to grow it, fine. If you want, it'd be like anything, like selling lemonade stand in front of your house. Why is government in the way? Don't we have the right to keep and bear plants?
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people that will listen to this, who's mainly conservative or Republican, they still don't have like their facts right on what marijuana is, what it does to you. Like they don't even understand the actual benefits. They just know what the government has told them about it, which I think is the most disheartening thing about like me and Danny being in the Republican Party. It's like we're constantly trying to bring nuance to a group of people that don't want nuance.
That's true.
And it's frustrating at times.
You know, I've been approached by some people in the Republican Party to try to get me convinced to run as a Republican. And I thought, why would I do that? Of what value would that be? If I was in this for Ken, I want to do things. I want to be able to get my name out there. Then yeah, that might make sense. But I'm here to free Pennsylvania. I'm here to eliminate all the nonsense, to bring about a freer Pennsylvania, cut taxes, to improve education, a big long list of things. But if I run as a Republican, it's not going to help the Libertarian Party. It's not going to help the Libertarian movement. It's not going to bring people into the party. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And then that kind of segues into one of my questions was about, you know, frustrations about, you know, the duopoly does have a stranglehold, and you see people like, you know, we love Ron Paul, and he even admitted he's a libertarian at heart, but he used the Republican Party as a vehicle because it was the only way he could win any offices. So, I mean, what do you think of that philosophy, or do you have any ideas of how to break through the duopoly besides winning your election?
There are so many. I'm telling you, they are afraid of the competition. Just look at the most recent statewide races for state rep, state house, state senate. There were 228 seats up for election. More than half of them had only one candidate running. What is this, communist Russia? The reason why is they've made it next to impossible for a third party and independent candidates to get on the ballot.
Yep.
Give you a good example. When I ran against Ed Rendell in 2002, he needed 2,000 signatures to get on the ballot. I needed 21,000. Even though the Pennsylvania Constitution says all elections shall be free and equal. Not equal. Actually, I've made a federal case out of it. I've taken it to court several times. And in 2016, I was a plaintiff on the case, and we got it reduced. Now, instead of 2,000 to 21,000, it's 2,000 versus 5,000. Still not equal. But
No.
5,000, we're heading in the right direction. So when you say that we're not getting elected, we're still having an impact.
Right.
But so there you go. That's the problem there, is that they have made it difficult to challenge their monopoly. Now, I have a really good idea on how to fix that. We need to change our system of voting. Right now, we have a winner takes all sort of system. You vote for the person you want, the person with the most votes wins. Pretty straightforward. It's also recognized as one of the worst ways of voting. Instead, what I'd like to see is something called approve, disapprove voting. AADV for short.
All right, hold on. Sorry. I got Roy on the phone. I'm pretty sure Roy can explain this with his PowerPoint.
You didn't tell me you're bringing Roy in here.
Oh, you're bringing Roy. Wait, this isn't Roy. This is what in the world?
Yeah, no, Roy's going to be my Secretary of State. But the way it works, the voting method is you get to vote for 0, 1, or 2 people. You can approve of them, and you can disapprove of 0 or 1 person. For each approval vote, they get a +1 on their score. For every disapproval vote, they get a -1. And the person with the highest net score wins. Right now, we don't have any way of saying we disapprove of a candidate. You got to look at them, and you're going to wind up voting for the lesser of 2 evils. But you're still voting for an evil. But if you had that disapprove button, you mentioned Roy Manette. This is his brainchild. He did a study of the 2016 election with Hillary and Donald Trump. He found that Donald's base was 11% who would vote for him. Hillary's is 12%, and the rest of the country didn't like them. If we had AADV voting, neither one would have been elected. And that voting tends to push the winner more to the center instead of these radical people way out on the edges. So that's one thing I would do. That would make it a lot easier for somebody to win. And if we change the ballot access laws, what I would do is I would get rid of primary elections. Why are we paying for their candidate selection process? Libertarians pay for their own. Green Party pays for their own. The communists pay for their own. But all of a sudden, this special interest called the 2 old parties, they're milking the taxpayer to choose their candidate. Crazy. This is the sort of stuff, they have a monopoly on all of the voting in Pennsylvania. And that's one thing as governor, I'm going to be able to change that. And I could keep talking about this one for a while because one of the powers that I get, it's in the Pennsylvania Constitution. It's called the line item veto. As governor, in any bill, I could cross out anything I don't like. So when the budget comes up and it's going to say $50 million for a primary election, I'm going to erase it. Gone. When we've got $400 million going to horse racing every year in Pennsylvania, gone. When we're paying for stadiums for private baseball teams, gone. All these things are going to be gone overnight. This is why I'm running for governor. I can have an impact without the help of the legislature, without the consent of the courts. By using that line item veto, I can cut back Pennsylvania's all the waste, all the corruption, all of the special interests. As I said, I can go on and on about that for a while.
Yeah,
there you go.
I didn't know about the line item veto until I watched your speech about it, and it's a great idea. It begs the question, like, why haven't other governors who claim to want to save money, why haven't they used that? It seems like a common sense idea.
I can tell you why. Did you were you raised in Pennsylvania?
Not me. No, I've only been here since 2007, actually. I grew up in
how about you?
No, I was raised in the great state of Missouri.
Okay. Were you ever taught your state constitution?
Oh yeah. We actually had to pass our state constitution and the federal constitution in order to pass 7th grade.
Well, in Pennsylvania, they don't teach it. They don't teach our kids what's in the Constitution. They don't have any requirements about it. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, went through the government school system. I didn't even know till I was in my 30s that we had a Pennsylvania Constitution. And then when I read it, I couldn't believe it. I know it's no surprise they keep it under wraps. When I go to the schools, it's one of the nice things about running for governor. I get into the schools. I can talk to students directly. And that's one of my first questions. How many of you people have read the Pennsylvania Constitution? Not even the crickets have read it. There's no noise at all. And teachers in the back of the room going, come on, move on. and I tell them why. There are things in there that people just don't know about. Article 1, Section 21. The right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. I have no question what that means. Why do we have carry permits, concealed carry permits? More than half the states currently don't require something like that. But this is political dynamite. They can't do that. It's Article 1, Section 5. All elections shall be equal, unless you're a third-party candidate or a libertarian. So many different things about that. I can go on and on.
The one thing about the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I am worried about if we ever would get a third party, a legitimate third party going, is I watched closely what happened in Canada a month ago, and it boggled my mind that the conservative guy got 41% of the vote, which, you know, is more than 33.3 repeating percent, but he still lost the prime ministership because the other parties colluded to make a coalition government, making Mark Carney then the prime minister. That's what worries me more now than ever about a possible third party being legitimate, because, I mean, if you have multiple parties of the left and they are purposely divided and then they can come together whenever they want to do a coalition government, wouldn't that just be just like a duopoly? Like what would keep the Republicans colluding with the Libertarians, or the Libertarians colluding with the Democrats, just to have a coalition government?
Well, first of all, they have a different form of government. They have a parliamentary style. Yeah, which we don't have. So it doesn't really carry over. But you do bring up a very important point. With me as the Libertarian governor, or if we had Libertarians in the State House, it's interesting because when you look at Libertarians from a strategic point of view, we believe, well, let me come at it from another point of view. Democrats agree with us on personal freedom issues. The Republicans agree with us on economic issues. But of course, people on the right, they don't like personal freedom. People on the left, they don't like economic freedom. But we Libertarians, we're the best of both worlds. So we can make an alliance with the Republicans on economic issues, make an alliance with the Democrats on personal issues. So we could be the swing vote one way or another to push things in the direction of freedom. So that coalition is exactly what our strength is going to be as we're getting people elected. And we already have a few Libertarians in the State House. They just ran wearing the enemy clothing. Russ Diamond immediately comes to mind. I worked on his campaign for state rep as a Libertarian.
Oh, who is that?
Back in Russ Diamond. He's from Anvil. He's in Lebanon. He's a state representative. He's been in it for a while now, but he was a Libertarian. Matter of fact, I got him into Toastmasters too.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Is he a Freedom Caucus guy? Is he a Freedom?
I don't know what the Freedom Caucus is in Pittsburgh. I don't follow that.
Freedom Caucus is the anti-establishment, like Republicans and the PA GOP.
I would guess that he is.
Okay.
Definitely he is. But like I said, Ross and I go way back. He was in 2012 when he ran as a Libertarian for state rep. And I worked the polls for him that day. I was also part of his campaign for PA Clean Sweep when we put together a slate of over 100 candidates to run for state rep and state senate. And I was one of the trainers for that. I was also working with him when he decided to run for governor. Russ and I, we have a long history. But we do have people in the State House who are Libertarians in wolf's clothing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So they're Republicans, but they're Libertarians at heart. They're using the system.
Correct. Like Ron Paul.
Yeah, exactly. So I support that. I want to come back to something you mentioned. Democrats support personal freedoms. I kind of disagree with that. If you go look back to COVID, they overwhelmingly supported vaccine mandates. But don't get me started on that, because I rant about that all the time. I need to pull up that graph, that survey, that Rasmussen poll that showed what Democrats supported. And January 2002. But maybe I'll share that later.
Well, I think there's also been a lot of growth in the Republican Party in general when it comes to personal freedoms as well. I mean, it's been a moving. Well, like 10 years ago, you couldn't find a Republican that publicly say that gay marriage should be a thing. Now, almost every Republican that is at least a little bit out in public view says that, gay marriage should be a thing.
I don't say that. I say government should get out. I say government should get out of marriage entirely. They got no business being in there. I don't know if you're aware of this, but marriage licenses were first instituted to prevent interracial marriages. Marriage licenses are racist. We shouldn't have them. Government should get out of that business entirely.
I didn't know that. Jeez.
No, most people don't. When I go to address a black audience, they sit there and they go, "Yo, they know," because they were the victims of this. This is another thing that's not being taught in our schools. So many things, so many problems with education. I could be here all night on that alone.
So here's a question. Do you think married couples should get tax breaks and like dependents? I think that was the whole idea, is to promote the family. Like, you have the government defines who was married, and then that's how they determine the tax code. I mean, I don't know if that's the origin. I'm not saying it is, but
the short answer is no. Anytime they play with the tax code, they're doing social engineering. They're trying to push people this way or that way or something like that. Or it's a special interest. They're trying to give somebody a special break. I'm against all that. Everybody should be treated equally. We shouldn't come up with these grand falloons, as Kurt Vonnegut would put it, where you just make up some connection which isn't really real.
I agree with you, like, in a principled manner, but as a pragmatist, I'll take any cut I can get. Because
are you a special interest?
I'm not anything, but I mean,
you just said you wanted a special cut.
I'm not saying I want a special cut, but what I am saying is, like, if they're gonna do it, I'm not gonna like complain, because in the end, less taxes for my family is better. So
special interest for himself.
so principled, I agree with you, but like the progressive tax isn't great. But
excuse me, you're talking federal. Pennsylvania has a flat tax. Article 8, Section 1.
Right. I'm just talking about like broadly.
Yeah, I'm a Pennsylvania guy. I don't pay much attention to what goes on with national or international news.
Well, was the Pennsylvania state always a flat tax?
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look at some of the earlier constitutions, 1864, the original 1776. But I believe it's always been same tax, uniform taxation on a given class of people.
Okay, because Danny's question was, if I'm hearing right, that's more of a federal question, not a state question.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Sorry, I went federal on you. I'm interested, just to go off on a brief tangent. Do you follow the Defend the Guard bill?
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan. Matter of fact.
All right.
Here. Yes. Yeah. There's a QR code if somebody's interested in more about Defend the Guard.
Yes.
Yep. Here, I Defend the Guard.
God bless you. Yeah.
Definitely, I'm a pro Defend the Guard. We should keep the National Guard in Pennsylvania for when Pennsylvania needs it.
Yes.
I was a refugee during Hurricane Agnes back in 1972. I was out camping, and we were 10 days. We were stuck. We were on refugee lists and everything like that. We couldn't get food. We couldn't get home. It was an interesting time. But National Guard was there to help. Now, what if they're off in Iraq or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
No. The governor is the head of the National Guard, the commander-in-chief. I will not permit it. I will do everything I can to keep the Pennsylvania National Guard in Pennsylvania, helping Pennsylvanians, period.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the bill also. I've rallied some of my state reps to try to introduced the bill here in PA. But I see that as kind of an issue that's a bridge between state and federal/international, because it's kind of an anti-war. I mean, Josh and I follow foreign policy a lot, and we blame the neocons for a lot of the problems of this country. And I think it has a trickle-down effect on state problems. But yeah, the Defend of the Guard bill is a great way to kind of address that problem from a state level, where like let's starve the war machine by not deploying our soldiers who are being deployed unconstitutionally anyway.
So as governor, you want the National Guard to stay here. Would you allow civilian militias to exist again?
Of course, civilian militias can exist now. I know groups of libertarians.
Not in the county of Lancaster County. Not in Lancaster County, they can't.
Really? That's the county.
Yeah. That's why I don't support the sheriff of Lancaster County.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by militia. Then any group of people can get together. The legal definition is anybody over the age of 18 who has a firearm.
So I go
out and I train. I train with other people. We don't call ourselves, we're the Pennsylvania militia or something like that. We're just a bunch of, I don't know, modern day patriots who get together and train. I've been at a front site in Nevada, one of the best firearms training places in the whole nation. It's been a lot of fun. I was out there with a lot of Pennsylvanians, Michael Bednarik, the former Libertarian presidential candidate. But no, I don't know what you mean by militia. Well, I don't know what you mean when you say this. The sheriff is against it.
Well, I've had 2 conversations with the Lancaster sheriff. Both of them were, one was like about 30 minutes long, just trying to understand, because I wasn't wanting to create a armed militia, but this was during 2020 during the riots, and I said to him, is it lawful? Because I read the ordinances. There's the ordinances in Lancaster County saying that like groups of people cannot be armed and providing like public service, so like soup kitchens and stuff like that. There's a public ordinance.
Shall not be questioned. Article 1, Section 21.
I agree with you. I'm just telling you what the ordinance said. And the sheriff said that they would enforce the ordinances and we'd be arrested.
Challenge it. Talk to the Institute of Justice. They'd be happy to back you on something like that.
I did take it to the local district judge, and he said it's better to not. He says better not to question it. That's what he said.
Yeah. Of course, he's part of the judicial monopoly, because the judiciary has a monopoly on all law. That's why lawyers are $500 an hour, because it's a monopoly. They've written themselves into the Pennsylvania Constitution 21 different places, the Bar Association. If you try to practice law without their permission, or not as a member of the bar, they'll fine you. They'll throw you in jail. Big part of the problem with Pennsylvania is because we have judicial tyranny. There are checks and balances, but there's no check or balance against the judicial. And I'm not sure how to go about that. It's going to be a long road to get them out of the Constitution, to erase them all out of there. Lawyers are just making a mess.
Yeah, all I wanted to do was have a group of 10 guys, like we
just
call
do it,
and do food kitchens, like relief, helping people move out of their homes, stuff like that, and also like train on the side. And
just do it. We had a open carry park cleanup here in Montgomery County a couple of years ago.
Well, that's fun.
There's nothing they could say about it. Pennsylvania's anywhere in the state, you're allowed to open carry. It's only concealed carry where they want to have that little piece of paper. But open carry, you can do it all the time. We had a Ron Paul rally, and one of the gentlemen was open carry there, and all of a sudden, 1,000 cops show up, but then 1,000 cops vanish because it's legal. Most people don't know that. Most states, it's legal, open carry.
Do you think?
Right. I guess I was 5 years younger than what I am now, but I was like definitely like, I'm like, okay, I have 3 kids. I do not want to be arrested right now just because I wanted to do something nice.
Well, don't call yourself the militia. Call yourself the Teddy Bear Club or something like that. You know, just
Someone's
go
hoping-
ahead and do what you want to do anyway.
You're a book club. You just happen to carry. Also.
That's right.
Do you think most citizens are maybe undereducated on the judicial system? Like, I mean, I know I am, and I complain to Josh and other people about how I don't like the endorsement process. Like we as Republicans, we have to endorse our local judges, and it's like I don't know that much about the law, and I'm married to a lawyer. I don't think I'm qualified.
Well, Danny, that goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, how Pennsylvania Constitution is not being taught. A lot of people don't even understand the difference between the primary election and the general election.
Right.
It's just
Do you guys know the numbers? Do you guys know the numbers of how many Republicans didn't vote at the primary Tuesday?
I'm sure a lot.
3 million registered Republicans didn't vote at the primary.
I was at the poll all day, and it was very slow. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was there too, and it was pretty slow. I showed up around noon, and I was the 92nd voter, usually, and we have almost 800 people voting at our place. So and the worst part of it is they snuck in a ballot question about building a new school for $250 million, and they put it on the primary when nobody's there to vote.
Oh wow!
So it's like 10% of the electorate get to see the question.
Wow.
Yeah. Gone. Oh, it's going to be
crazy.
gone.
That's crazy. Oh,
I know. And it passed. It passed by a couple hundred votes.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we had, what happened here, like Sam with Josh Parsons. I guarantee you, if Parsons would have been on the ballot in the primary for his special election, there would have been more Republicans voting.
Yeah.
On primary day too. I don't understand I've tried to read some more articles about that race, and it's just like it just seems like the PA GOP sabotaged him on purpose.
I feel like they did. Yeah.
I don't understand why. I don't.
I can believe it. Oh, they play politics.
Yeah.
We can be started on that too.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, please start on it. That's what we're here to talk about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, which part? I mean,
what else do we want to ask you? No, this is good stuff. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? So I'm sure you have a lot of critiques about the current Pennsylvania administration. Shapiro. I know I do.
I certainly do. Do you know, I call him Joshing Shapiro because he used to be my township commissioner. He was my state rep as he was climbing up the ladder. When he was state rep, this is in 2005, we went to him. We have a coalition of third parties called the Pennsylvania Ballot Access Coalition.
Yep, I heard of it.
Our goal is to make it easier for third parties and independents to get on the ballot.
Right.
Well, we had a bill we had introduced. It's called the Voters' Choice Act. And we polled all 203 state reps saying, would you support this? I got back from Josh Shapiro, my state rep. He says, I support free and equal elections, and I support the Voters' Choice Act. I will vote in favor of it. I think this is important. And I still have his email. Well, it got introduced. It got forwarded to committee, state government committee. Josh is on the state government committee. It's like, yeah, we got to vote on there. When it came time to vote, guess what he did? He voted against it.
Right.
I was there. I was in the hearing room. I did testimony in front of him. Him and I guess there were 13 of them up there. And afterwards, I go over, Josh, you said you voted in favor of it. I said, well, Ken, I got to get 300 signatures and I got to do it in January. And you guys would have all Josh, you guys wrote that law. If you don't like it, change it. Don't put it on me. We're just trying to make things equal for all Pennsylvanians, like the Constitution says.
Yep.
He lied to me in writing about a very important thing, about getting more voters choices involved. Look at me, now you got me all worked up about it. He lied to me in writing. I can't wait to see him on the debate stage. Say, Josh, why did you lie to me about the Voters' Choice Act? Why did you say you were going to vote for it and then didn't? That's why I call him joshing
Yeah,
Shapiro.
I
If
like.
I call him a liar,
Right.
I'll just say he's joshing.
Well, I like.
We call him bomb signer.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I was going to mention that.
I'm sorry. You call him what?
Bomb signer. He signs bombs for.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, I mean, that's how you know. Well, we touched on. This is two things. What you know, he's a career politician. Like, one is the definition of politician, is you mentioned in your speech. Like, once you tell your first lie, then you're a politician.
That's
And
right.
so
I'm not a
was his
politician.
lie. So you're not a politician because you haven't backslid on the promise yet. Not yet. But the second reason he's a career politician is, look, I mean, he's on the national stage signing bombs for Zelensky. What does that have to do with Pennsylvania? He's on a career track. He's using that as a stepping stone.
Well,
he ran for president of the United States.
Well, yeah, he's also draining. He's also draining our rainy day fund for all these rises in education, social money, and all this stuff, just so that he can, when he runs for president in 2028, he can say, "Oh, my government did this, and then we didn't raise taxes." Well, no, you use our rainy day fund.
Right.
You drained our rainy day fund so that you can run for president and you can have like a statistic showing that you didn't raise Pennsylvania state taxes. It's just stupid. Right. It's so stupid. But
I think that he turned down the vice presidential race because he did not want to be associated with a loser.
I've heard that.
My personal
probably.
You know, because I think that guy Tim Tampon Tim, his career's over.
He'll probably stay in Minnesota and do something. I mean,
Did you say you were from Minnesota?
Missouri. Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
That's one of those M states.
My God, I'll Greta Thunberg you. How dare you? No. Are you looking forward to running against Doug Mastriano? Because that's probably who it's going to be.
Well, I'm not sure who it's going to be. Yeah, but Doug is a little bit extreme, I would say. I've met him a couple of times. I was at the Lowell Henry, his Pennsylvania version of CPAC, a couple of years ago, and we just don't get along. I think he's a little bit too extreme, especially when it comes to abortion. Good grief! I mean, he's so far right. He's right out of the country with that.
Well, you got two pro life people here in this podcast, so.
No. Well, people ask me, are you pro-life or pro-choice? And I smile and I say, yes. I'm like, what do you mean? Because there's a way that we can defuse the abortion crisis. Very simple. It's not a change to the abortion laws, but rather a change to the adoption laws. Specifically, what I would like to see is that if a woman does not want her unborn child, any individual or organization can step forward and adopt it while it's still in the womb. Through the privacy of the doctor, they can ask the woman, please bring the baby to term. And the woman can say yes or no. If she says yes, well, of course, the adoptive parents would pay for the delivery. Since a lot of babies are aborted for economic reasons, we are guaranteed to reduce the number of abortions. Guaranteed. And we're leaving the choice up to the woman. She could say yes or no. If she says yes, the adoptive parents pay for it. We've just saved a baby. But it's still the woman's choice.
What's
pro-life
a baby?
And pro-choice together. I call it pro-option.
What's a baby?
What's a baby? It's a human.
Okay, so do humans have human rights or not?
Of course.
Do humans have a right to life?
You have the right to live your life your way without interference, provided only you respect the rights and property of others. And everybody has that same right to life.
If you have sex, is there a known possibility of pregnancy?
Absolutely. I have 3 daughters.
Okay, great. So as a libertarian, how in the world can you be for anything but pro-life? Human life.
Well,
I
would generally agree with that. Because when people say, when does life begin? Well, it began in some primordial swamp a couple billion years ago, and we're just continuing right now. The question, I think, I see where you're going on this. Question is, what sort of protection should the state offer?
Yes,
to
I
all these
always
other
ask
people?
that. That's the $1,000,000 question.
It's the same. It's the same right to life that we get because we're a human being.
I agree. That problem is not going to be solved. As I said, I'm going to defuse the abortion crisis. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the number of abortions while still preserving a woman's right to choose. So I'm going to be saving babies, and I'm going to be preserving a woman's right to choose. Now, is that going to be 100%? Is that going to save every sparrow? No. Is it going to save some sparrows? Yes. If I can save one baby, I'll consider it a victory. Am I going to save every baby? No. I'll leave that to my successor. I'm just a signpost pointing the way, to quote Isaac Asimov.
Right. And I don't even need to bring God into it. It's just if you're a libertarian and you're a person of principle, the principle is that every human being has the right to life.
I agree.
It's a state. It is a state issue. We have laws that protect people's right to life. No matter where they are. They could be in Kansas, they could be in Missouri, they could be in California, they could be in Ohio. It doesn't matter where the human being is. No matter where it's at, it's got value, and that it should be enforced. There should be no choice.
I'm looking at this.
The choice should be made before.
The choice
should be made before sex even happens. If you don't want a child, put a condom on. If you don't want a child, take the proper precautions. That's
not human. It's not human nature. It's not. You're going against human nature there. I see where you're going with this. You're out to save every sparrow. Ain't gonna happen in the next 5 years. It's not gonna, because next year I get elected. 4 years later, what I can do is I can scale that back. It's not gonna happen overnight.
So
I agree.
It's a cultural thing.
I agree that life is sacred. I agree that we should protect the born and the unborn. And I'm just coming up with a way that we can save more babies. And I've done this in front of the Tea Party sort of people. I've been at the same rallies with Mr. Mastriano, and most of the people there agree with me, saying, that's great, we're going to save more babies. Are you in favor of saving one more baby?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah. Like I said, if I save one baby, we've won. But it'd save a lot more than that. Because how many babies are aborted for economic reasons? And there's more to it than that. That's it. We'll talk about abortion all night, but that's my solution.
Yeah.
Pro-option.
Right.
Prenatal adoption.
I want to ask you, what do you think? I mean, we can agree to disagree on what the policy should be, but what do you think make Mastriano's views, you called it extreme. What was extreme about his platform? Because I was a big supporter of Mastriano, and I found that there were a lot of lies that were told about his position, like the whole ectopic pregnancy thing, and like the woman's life's going to be in danger. That he didn't support that at all, but it was kind of a thing that got spread around, like that he wasn't going to save women who had their life in danger.
Well, I don't pay too close attention to things like that because I'm not running against Mastriano. I'm not running against Josh and Shapiro. I'm running for the people of Pennsylvania. So they can say what they want, and the people of Pennsylvania will make their decision about that.
That's a great answer. That's such a good answer for a campaign.
I don't care what they're saying. I'm going to get my voice out there unless they try and stifle me again. That was something else. They used to fine people to try to get on the ballot. They kick them off the ballot and then fine them $80,000. It happened to Ralph Nader. It happened to Carl Romanelli, a green guy. They tried to do it to me, but I just stopped running. When I ran for governor in 2002, all the way up until I won that court case in 2016, which made those fines illegal, between 2002 and 2018, I was the only third-party candidate or independent to run for governor. I ran in 2002, nobody until 2018 when I ran again because of those fines. That's a whole nother story too. Wow. But my court case which one we won. That reduced the signatures to 5,000. It eliminated those fines. A few other little things too, like getting rid of notarizations and little back office stuff.
Danny, I want to ask him a question about the GOP. I don't know how many questions you have. Do you have a lot of questions? What more questions do you want to ask him?
No, I'm good. I think I exhausted all my questions.
Okay. Do you think the PA GOP is like 100% rotten to the core and has no chance of like resurrection? Or do you think if the right liberty patriotic people got inside the PA GOP, it can be saved?
I don't think that either of the two old parties could be saved, especially the Democratic Party these days with all their men and women's sports and all that woke nonsense.
Yep.
Forget all that. No, I don't think either one can be saved because they don't have a central principle. Can you give me one sentence what the Republicans believe in, or one sentence what the Democrats believe in? I gave you one sentence for us: your life, your way, as long as you respect others.
That's why we started our podcast. That's actually why. Because we wanted to depict what the right kind of Republican there was. Because we're America First Republicans. We're not MAGA, although we voted for Trump. We're not neocons. We're not establishment uniparty Republicans. We're America First Republicans. Meaning we want to put America first in every conversation, in every policy. America first.
I want to put the individual first. I'm a big fan of Ayn Rand. In fact, I wrote a sequel to Atlas Shrugged called Atlas Snubbed, because I believe in championing the individual over the collective in every case. So when you say America, that's a big collection of people in various directions. But what's good for the individual is what's good for America. It's good for Pennsylvania too. That's why I fight for individual rights, not for Pennsylvania rights, not for America rights, not for world rights.
Yeah, I think we agree with that. It's just like me.
Well, no. Do you agree that you have the right to live your life your way as long as you respect others?
Me and Danny overall just want us to go back to the Constitution.
Is that a yes or a no?
We want to follow the Constitution as written.
So do I. And they're not. I've got a list of 17 things that they're not doing. Like, for example, the right to bear arms shall not be questioned. Let me ask again. Do you think that you have the right to live your life your way, provided you respect the rights and property of others? Yes or no? Of course you do.
I answered yes. Yeah.
we all do.
That's so broad. That's so broad because many people.
That's the principle.
No, the problem with that principle is morality, such as like demanding your pronouns to be said by other people and no dead naming and things like that.
Nowhere did I say that. I said you have the right to live your life your way. If you want to dress up like a cat and poop in the litter box, have fun. None of my problem. But if you come to me and say, I want you to pay for my litter box, or I want you to pay for my fur cleaning, whoa. Now you're not letting me live my life my way.
Okay, I get that, but what about parental rights?
I'm sorry, what about what?
Parental rights.
Parental rights?
Right. Oh, of course, parents have the right, period. 100%. Parents.
See, I don't agree with that. That's where I don't agree with that. If you want to stand
between me and my daughters, sir, you better come well armed.
The problem of what we're facing right now is that people are using their children for political purposes, and
I just did the same thing.
And they're transing their kids, they're mutilating their bodies, and they're doing all these things just to make a political point.
That is child abuse.
I agree.
If I whacked my kids, and now she's got a bloody nose, I should go to jail. Period. If they're cutting off their children body parts or they're giving them strange drugs and stuff like that, they should go to jail. Period.
Okay. So
They're not respecting the rights of their kid.
Okay. Because I agree with you. I just when you say something when you say something that broad, though, we all have to agree on what's child abuse, and we all have to agree upon, you know, when it comes to minors, what that means. You know what I mean? You can't just say what you said as a broad term without also talking about minors.
Well, see, minors, they don't have the ability to reason that well yet.
Right.
And because if they did, they'd be having ice cream and cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know,
in America, we already do that.
Well, I do it. I had pizza for breakfast this morning, but that's okay for grown-ups. But for kids, you can't do that. You just can't do things to harm kids. Now, there are some gray areas like spanking. I'm a spanking father.
So am I.
But yeah.
Danny, are you a spanking father?
No, we don't do that in our house.
You use the bottle squirter?
No. I don't even know what that is, but no.
It must be a southern thing. I got sprayed a few times.
Yep. No, it's a lot of fun. No, but anyway, you have the right to live your life your way. And it is broad. It's across the board. Kids, special case. You ought to read my novel, Atlas Snubbed, because it talks about how to handle children, child prostitutes. All that's in there. We'll be here all night if I start getting into it. But getting back to your question about can the GOP and the Democratic Party, can either one be saved? No, because they don't have that central principle. That's all there is to it. Like, for example, what do you think about taxation?
It's theft.
There you go. It's theft. I can't take your money without your permission. And Danny and I can't vote to take your money. But somehow, when it's the city of Philadelphia or the state of Pennsylvania, it became okay. Where did they get that power? They didn't get it from us. We don't have that power. So for me as governor, I'm going to reduce that taxation as much as possible. It's the same thing as with the abortion. Yes, it's wrong. Taxation is theft. Abortion is murdering. You're killing a life. But you're not going to get rid of it all, not overnight. What you do is you fix it up as best you can, given the conditions that you got. So you have prenatal adoption to save babies. You got line item veto to save tax dollars.
Who owns the state of Pennsylvania? Like the ground?
It was given to William Penn by King, I forget which one, King George, as payment for debt. And he gave him the whole thing. And what William Penn did is he set up Pennsylvania as a trust. And if you look at our Constitution, it still says that. In Article 1, Section 28, I think it is, the one that mentions the environment. They say, as trustee, Pennsylvanians have a right to clean air, clean water, things like that. We're set up as a trust. There used to be visitors for a trust. Every trust has visitors who can come in and examine the trust, examine the books. We used to have that here in Pennsylvania. They're the ones who used to invalidate laws. Every 7 years, they'd meet and say, no, that law violates the Constitution. It's gone. Oh, we got to change the Constitution. Let's have a constitutional convention to do ABC.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Not taught in schools.
That's so cool.
I know. Ben Franklin came up with this, and he has it. It's in the 1776 Constitution. When he died in April. In July, they came out with a new Constitution that did not have it in there.
Oh.
But it's still in effect. We actually talked about doing this, about running for the Council of Censors. That's what it's called. And you get 2 people from every county, 2 people from every city of the first class. And they get together, they examine everything Pennsylvania's done, and they can get rid of bad laws, call a constitutional convention.
Okay.
We're talking about doing it, but see, we libertarians, we have trouble winning races. So even if we did have a council of censors reconvened, odds are we would not get elected. Too many of us.
I was asking you about who owned Pennsylvania or what owns Pennsylvania because
William Penn.
Right. Okay. Right. So
it's a trust. The trust still exists.
So will we ever be able to get away with not having to pay property taxes?
Yes, there's something called allodial title, which is what William Penn had, which means he owns the land. Right now, you have a deed to your land. That deed is a piece of paper that sits between you and your property. What you got to do is get rid of that deed, get an allodial title to your land, and that way it's yours. You're sovereign over your land.
Mm-hmm.
I know many people who have tried to get it.
I tried.
You tried for an allodial title?
5 months ago, when I was already having land problems trying to acquire another acre of ours that like a bank owned, because the last person who owned this property had a mortgage on it and they foreclosed. I said, when this is done, can I get an allodial deed? And he said the only states that do allodial deeds is Nevada and Utah, and that it's not, it doesn't exist on the East Coast.
Well,
I never heard of it before.
And that's a real estate lawyer.
Well, if he's a lawyer, then he's been trained as a lawyer. He's going to parrot the lawyer. Just like when you went to your district justice and asked about the militia, they're just going to sing the tune, because you know what's going to happen if they step out of line? Their bar card's going to get pulled and they're going to be out of a job.
So you're saying that I could get an allodial title right now? I
would say, yes, you can try. Like I said, I know a lot of people who've tried over the years.
I would love to do that.
I was in the state citizenship movement back in the mid-90s.
I was going to ask you about that, state citizenship.
Everybody I know who tried to become a state citizen, they all wound up in jail. People I know who stood against the IRS said, oh, Section 841 says it's not true. Oh, I'm not a state under the definition. Every one of them went to jail.
Wow.
Jail.
My friend has to watch this episode.
The government is trying to defend itself. They're not going to let you get out and say, oh, you don't have to pay property tax. You don't have to pay the income tax. They're going to squash you like a bug. And that's what I see over and over and over again. If anybody's thinking of doing it, don't. I've seen too many lives ruined. I've visited them in prison. I've gone over to their house to hang out with them because they've got the ankle bracelet on.
Wow.
Well, why are you running for governor, and why don't we start a revolution? I don't understand.
For the same reason that I'm not going to declare taxation to be theft and stop it. For the same reason I'm not going to be able to stop abortion. You can only do so many things. You have to set realistic goals. As governor, I have all sorts of realistic goals. That line item veto, that's a real killer right there. We're going to reform education. Education is a disaster. If you look at the scores, the nation's report card just came out. Pennsylvania's been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. What we're doing is wrong. It's not working. We have rooted out completely. We have great teachers, but it's the administrators above it. Do you know the number of students in Pennsylvania is starting to dip a little bit? Number of teachers, it's okay, it's right a little bit higher than that. The number of administrators is like, whoosh, like that the past 5 or 10 years. That's why property taxes are so high. Do you know, to educate a kid in Pennsylvania, the average cost is $24,000.
Yep.
I did a poll of our local schools around here, not the fancy schools, not like Friends schools, stuff like that. The average cost is about $10,000. If we privatize the schools, we could cut property taxes in half overnight. Nobody's thinking about that. See, I may not be able to get rid of property tax. I have a plan to do that. I may not be able to do it, but I can reduce them. I may not be able to eliminate abortion. I can reduce them. I may not be able to eliminate taxation. I can reduce them. Do the best I can with the tools I have.
Okay. All right. So the reason why we probably will never get rid of property tax is because Pennsylvania isn't a trust, unlike other states?
No. The reason why we're not going to get rid of it is because the legislators we have aren't going to vote for it. You could run for school board, but you're a cog in the machine there. You got to get to the state level and take a look. And here it is. Article 3, Section 14 says the Commonwealth shall run a thorough and efficient method of public education to serve the needs of the Commonwealth. It's not thorough. It's not efficient. How many things did I tell you guys tonight that you never heard before? This is stuff about Pennsylvania. You should know this. But it's neither one. Actually, we're talking about filing a lawsuit against the Commonwealth for failing their constitutional duties. And what we got to do is scrap what we got, scrap all these funny formulas, which also, by the way, have social engineering in them. Scrap all the social engineering, start from scratch again, and give our teachers the elbow room they need to do what they need to do. Get rid of all the rest of that garbage.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it does. I've heard Roy talk about a similar plan. Yeah.
You know, Roy and I are getting together next week, me, him, and my future Secretary of Education. And we're going to be hammering out the final planks, platform, how it's going to all unfold.
No, wait, are you going to be governor or is Roy going to be governor in the background?
Roy's going to be the Secretary of State. He's going to run the government for me. So he's going to make sure everybody's getting paid.
Yeah. He'll be the puppet
master. You be the puppet master?
That's right. No, if I'm going to be anybody's puppet, Roy's a good person to be pulling the strings.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Roy is one of the greatest men I've ever met.
I know. This guy's brilliant, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got good taste in food.
And music. Yeah. I ran into him at the symphony. Yeah, he's got season tickets. Yeah.
He and I are both physicists. We share that, so we communicate on a logical level.
Nice. All right. Well, do we want to wrap up here, Josh, or do you have anything else for Ken?
No. Will you be back on as you keep running?
Absolutely. I'll do more and more as time goes by. I've already been doing statewide tours around the state. I've already done 4 of them. And I meet with the local people when I go there, and I like to get into the schools. That's what I really like about running for governor. I get to talk to students and give them the naked truth. So, yeah, that's happening. One thing I want to add in closing, people say, Ken, I love your ideas. We should reduce taxation. We should fix the schools. We should eliminate this insane war on drugs. But Ken, face it, you're not going to get elected. But wait, I can get elected. Off-year elections like the governor race, people don't vote. Usually it's between 45% of the people who vote in those off-year elections. That means that all that I need to do is to attract the vote of 1 out of 6 voting age Pennsylvanians. And that's all I need. In a competitive 3-way race, 1 out of 6 will do the trick. So I can win. So if you're sitting at a table, there's 5 people sitting there and they all say, this guy Ken's an idiot. And you're sitting there saying, no, he isn't. I like Ken. That's all it takes. 1 out of 6 to stop their tricks.
I'll tell you right now, if they're running Doug Mastriano again, I'll probably vote for you.
Thank you, sir. Higher praise I can never expect.
I'll probably vote, yeah.
And to your listeners, I'll say, please vote for me, Ken Krawchuk, Libertarian for Pennsylvania governor. Because if you keep on voting the way you've been voting, you're going to keep on getting exactly what you've been getting.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I have had enough.
Thank you, Ken. Yes.
Thank you for coming, man.
We look forward to talking again. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. And that's the wrap for today. Peace.
If you would like to be a guest on Lancast or contact us for any reason, send an email to lancastAmericaFirst@gmail.com. That's Lancast with 2 C's, AmericaFirst@gmail.com. Thank you.